What's going on, everybody? It's Chris with Profoto, and this is Geared Up. It's our weekly live broadcast where we talk about gear, lighting, from techniques, we do breakdowns, we learn new things, we kind of dissect some stuff, just kind of have fun, take your questions, figure some stuff out together, and hopefully you learn some stuff, because a lot of times I learn some stuff too. Today is going to be more of a gear-centric discussion, and that's going to be around this little remote right here, the Connect. Especially with the we're just double checking to make sure the stream's good. It sounds like it's fine. We're going to be talking about the Connect. So I think with the Connect Pro being out, this kind of thing kind of gets a little bit less attention about what it can and can't do. Some feature sets that I don't think a lot of people know that it does. And I want to just kind of talk about that stuff, show you how it works, talk about how I use it and why I have one, and hopefully answer some cool questions. If you have any, let us know. First and foremost, the cool thing about the Connect is its simplicity. So really, in the beginning, this was designed for people who really only wanted one light. So the beautiful thing about this is out of the box, it comes set to channel 1 group A. So you can take your light and set it to channel 1 group A and set it to TTL mode, set it to manual mode, and it's ready to rock and roll. You can dial your power up and down however you want to from the light or from the app. But just like that, it's a real simple remote to use. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that in TTL mode, you actually have control over your lights with this thing. So a lot of the times people will be like, I don't want to have to pull out my app to control the power. And you may not be in a situation in which that makes a lot of sense. But what you can do is flip the remote into TTL mode and then take your camera's flash exposure compensation, and you can actually take and raise and lower the power of your flash the way that you want. I'll show you that here with the app on my computer here in just a moment to show you that it does work really nicely. Now, when you're in manual mode, you're not really talking TTL, so there's not that extra information as far as flash exposure compensation isn't communicating. At least with my Fuji, it doesn't. So I haven't really tried it with Canons or Nikons, but my guess is because when you flip over to manual mode, there's not a lot of TTL action happening other than when you need high-speed sync. So this is going to be one of those things where if you need to adjust that power level while you're running around, and you don't want to have to pull out the app or something like that to make that adjustment, you can flip over into TTL mode and make that flash exposure compensation change on your camera. And if you want to, you can take a shot, see if you like it. And if you like it, you can flip right back into manual mode. That way you don't have to worry about the power jumping around anymore. But that is the way to control the power without having to worry about, using other devices and stuff like that. Something really cool, and we'll talk about that here in a second. What's really dynamite is with the launch of the Connect Pro, we actually push the same software to this thing that you have the Connect Pro. So where I think this thing is really cool is in a studio situation, right? So having the ability to, Caitlin, can you just pull up my computer screen just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about? Perfect. So like if you look here on the computer screen, you can see that I have my capture system right here. So I'm using Capture One, but you may be using Lightroom or something like that. You have your capturing software right here. And then right next to it, I have all 6 of my groups ready to control. This is my Connect that I have in my hand. Apparently, I've named it Connect F number 1 because I am very innovative in my naming structure. But it gives you all the information you need. It shows you that you're in Air 2. So if I flip over here to manual mode on the Connect, you'll see that I'm actually getting the power output from my current flash. Granted, all these, and here I can show you, I can turn off B, C, D, E, and F, and I'll just leave them off just because I'm not using them right now. But you can see the power level of the light. And then, from here, I can make that power level adjustment. You can go up and down. And this is the exact same way that you would use it with the iPad app, the same way that you would use it with the Android or iPhone app. It's the same information, which is really nice. So you can power it up and down. You still have all of the modeling light on and off control that you would have if you were using just the Connect. This thing is pretty dynamite. Like I said, in a studio situation and having the app up like that, either on your tablet, your phone, or here with the Profoto control on the desktop, is really nice. And it gives you kind of this really sleek, compact remote that is also fully controllable from, say you have like a digital tech and you don't want to have to worry about a whole bunch of extra stuff. Maybe you want to stay super light. Maybe maybe you don't like the size of the Connect whenever you're running around, you could have your tech running, or you could, if you don't have a tech and you just like to get over it and you know, work with your own stuff as well, you could have all of this stuff up and rock and rolling, and this thing doing its thing, super low profile, really compact. The other nice thing about it, it's got a built-in lithium-ion battery, so it lasts a pretty long time. There's quite a few hours out of this thing. I all the time, I forget to turn mine off, and it just goes to sleep and wakes back up, and I still have a ton of life left on it, which is nice. And then if you needed to, you could actually plug in like a small power bank and actually charge this thing while you're using it at the same time too. If maybe you're doing a much longer shoot and you want to just make sure that this thing's always juiced up, you can plug a power bank into it and it'll do just fine. That's really all the information on it. Again, it's not a really hard product to use. It was designed to be simple. The cool thing is that whenever you pair it with all the technology that we've done with the Bluetooth side and the app and stuff like that, you can really dive in and make this thing a powerhouse. So with that being said, what I'm going to do now is we're going to throw it onto my camera. I'm going to show you how to use it with the flash exposure compensation, how that can control it, and all that good stuff. And then what we'll do is we'll flip back and forth. That way you can see all of this information here on my screen as I show you that it does control and change the power of the stuff. So you ready to rock and roll, Kate?
Yeah.
Any questions for anyone? Like I said, this is a pretty light live, but again, I just don't think the Connect gets as much love and for as cool as it is. It's always in my bag. I generally tend to throw the Connect Pro onto my camera whenever I'm running around because I just want to be able to see my stuff really fast, especially because when I do a lot of environmental stuff, I'm not always tethered up. But this is always in my bag just as a backup, just in case I need it. So this is for, you know, the size and stuff like that, having it in your bag, really, really handy. Cool. Let's snap a couple of photos. So camera wise, settings wise, I'm at f8, 125th of a second because that's the top sync speed of my GFX, and I'm at f8. So, and that's just, those settings are generally what I roll with because it helps knock the video lights down in here and we don't have anything infiltrating the scene. Lighting wise, I'm using a Pro 11. You don't have to use a Pro 11. I'm just using one because it was out in the studio, so I figured we'd roll with it. And we have an RFI 3x4, and I have it turned long ways instead of tall ways, so it's 4x3. Yeah, it's really hard to see it that way. So it's 4 wide right now, 3 high. So just so you kind of understand how it goes. And again, it's just to have a big light, kind of make it feel a little windowy. It's a real pretty even light. Again, if you're looking for a look like this, you can do it with one light. The 4x3 is a really good way of doing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my Connect into TTL mode. I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't see it on the screen right now, but we'll pop the screen up here in just a second and show you what we're talking about. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Cool. The TTL nailed the exposure. It looks really, really nice. You can see the image up there. And so if you go over, can you just pop up the computer screen really fast? So if you see right there, there's no compensation or anything happening. So like we're in TTL mode. You can see the auto right here. I haven't compensated here. I haven't compensated in my camera. Now, I will say this. If you compensate in your camera, I don't believe so. Let me double check, but I don't believe you'll see that compensation there. I do believe that they are separate, which is kind of cool because if you needed a lot of compensation, which generally you don't, the TTL is pretty good, but if you needed a lot of compensation, you could compensate with both. So here's me I'm in TTL mode. Let me go up here to my compensation, and then I'm going to bop this up by a stop. Let's see. Yeah, so like I said, the compensation doesn't follow along in the app, so don't worry if you don't see that. But now, I'm now compensated. Here, actually, let me show you this. So if you see on the screen, you see the power level right now that just changed when I flipped over to manual mode. It now says 6.3. So now I'm going to go back into TTL mode. I'm going to compensate up one stop. Cool. Ready, Kate?
Yeah. Let's see. Hey, Chris, I think you answered my question. In the field, I the flash comp, the best way to control the power output?
Yeah. So if you're in the field using the Connect, flash comp is the only way to control the output if you don't want to have to pull out the app. And a lot of times when you're running and gunning, you definitely don't have time for stuff like that. I know some people I've even seen some people with like a little, if you needed the control and stuff like that, and
you're not there.
Oh, and I'm not there. I've seen people. Here, let me come in. I've seen people who are trying to stay relatively scrappy, kind of have either it in their pocket or on like a little mount, kind of with their camera bracket. I've seen like that once or twice, but the downside for that is going to make your system a little more bulky.
And then Franklin wants to know, does the Connect support the high-speed sync?
Yeah, so the Connect does everything. So if you get the one based off of your camera, it's full TTL, full high-speed sync. It does all the stuff the Connect Pro does. It just doesn't have a screen. So it's all the guts of the Connect Pro, all the connectivity of the Connect Pro. You just don't have a screen. So the upside for that is it keeps the footprint really, really small. Again, I keep it in my bag if I'm running around, and right as of now, because I like to see my power level with my Connect Pro whenever like Kate and I are just kind of running around and we need to keep it relatively tight. The Connect Pro works well for me, but it's always in my bag as a backup. And then if I'm doing something where I know it's going to be real quick, I can kind of get by with just my one light. I'm not doing anything else. I generally just throw the Connect into my bag. So it's I really, really like the remote. I use a lot more outside than I do inside, but it's
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Franklin.
Yeah, all the same info. Cool. So now, so you saw that it was at a power level of 6.3. And so now I'm going to take another shot, stay in the TTL mode because I'm using flash exposure compensation to adjust that power. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Whoa, that got way brighter. Hold on a second. Let's do one more again. 3, 2, 1. Hold on, let me double check my flash exposure comp. Maybe I bumped it because it's not happy.
I think you bumped it.
It's not happy with me right now. It's very likely that I'm. Oh my gosh! I accidentally put my camera into high-speed sync mode, even though my shutter speed's not in high-speed sync mode. So that could be the problem.
And then Franklin says, I can see myself using the Connect on my second camera and the Pro on my main.
100%.
Control the output. Yeah,
100%. It's a great secondary remote for another camera. Absolutely. Cool. So that overexposure was a user error. That was Chris accidentally bumping my camera and putting it into high-speed sync, even though my camera itself wasn't above its sync speed. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Although it's still really mad at me. We're just gonna turn this thing off.
While you're doing that, let's see what else we have. If the battery had to be replaced, is it something the user could do, or does it have to be sent into the service center?
So my guess is it probably, if the battery has to be replaced, it probably has to come into service. I don't know though, because it's not the newest remote in the world, but I don't think it's really old enough yet to have to worry about replacing the battery. So, but that's a good question. I don't know the answer to, but if you'll DM me your question, I'll ask our service guys and I'll let you know.
That question is from Tony.
That was from Tony. Tony, DM me or DM us and we'll find out that answer for you. Here we go. Let's see. I'm going to, just for the heck of it, just to see if I haven't made this thing mad, I'm going to zero, my flash exposure already zeroed itself out. So ready? So let's do this. 3, 2, 1. Lovely. All right, let's compensate up. This also could be a firmware issue too if it's this mad. So let's.
Gotta check your firmware.
So I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna go down a stop and let's see what happens. So 3, 2, 1. So there you go. It's darker. So again, earlier that shot was at 6.3. So when I flip into manual mode, you can see we're at 5.2. Oh, you can't see that we're at 5.2, but I can see that we're at 5.2. So once I decided to get my camera out of high-speed sync mode and put it in the correct mode, you can see that here. So if you see like this shot and this shot together, so this is the proper exposure. This is me pushing my flash exposure compensation down a stop. You could also see here on the power level, it is indeed down a stop. So we were at 6.3. That last exposure was at 5.2. The 0.2 to 0.3 doesn't really matter that much because TCL is always going to make slight adjustments to things. But again, that's how you can control your power with the Connect when you're out in the field running and gunning. So you don't have to bust out the app. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to use it because I have to pull out my phone. You don't have to do that. You can simply take a TTL shot, flip it back over to manual mode if you'd like to, or if you're in a situation where things are really moving and you need to stay in TTL mode, you can just ride that flash exposure compensation in your camera and your lights will follow right along. So again, really, really simple stuff. And then when you want to dive deeper into it and you want to start doing multi-light setups, then you're going to want to start, popping open the app just so you can actually control everything, set it in individual groups. Just like all of our stuff, groups A, B, and C are your TTL and manual groups. So those are the ones that you can set to be dynamic. So if you need the power to follow along with something, maybe you're moving, maybe your subject's moving, and you need that power to follow along, you'd want to set your lights to either group A, B, or C. Now, if you're in a situation where let's say you have a B10 right here, and the subject right in front is kind of moving a little bit, and you want the TCL to follow along, but maybe you're shooting a couple of lights into the background because it's a high key shot, or you're doing like a white background, right? And you don't want those to change. What you'll do, just like on all the Profoto stuff, is you'll set those two lights to group D, E, or F. And then now those lights are manual only. So they'll still do high speed sync if you need them to, but they won't change power levels like the lights on A, B, and C will in TTL mode. So you could leave your remote in TTL. Those lights in the back that are on D, E, or F, they'll stay the exact same power setting that you set them to. So, and that's true with the Connect Pro, the Air Remote, even the A1s or the A10 at this point. So that's another really good thing to know. The Connect does all that same stuff. So even though it's a pretty bare bones remote in physically, it has all the robustness of a lot of the other stuff. So.
And then Pamela says, I think there's a built-in rechargeable LiPro battery for the details through 30-hour battery life. Oh,
30 hours. Yeah. Thank you for the 30 hours, because in my brain it was 13. But
you had the 3, right?
Yeah, the 3, right. Yeah, we're on the money. I've got scrambled brains right now. But 30 hours is not too shabby. And again, like I said, I've screwed up and left mine on before. Luckily I leave my standby on because I know that I do that kind of stuff. So I'll kind of push it to the longest standby. And even with that kind of stuff happening and me leaving it on for days, I came back and I had plenty of life to see the stuff. And again, you can pop open the app. You can see your battery level indicator right here. Also, the other cool thing about going with like the Connect or the Connect Pro over something like one of the older remotes is not only all this information here, but firmware updates are like the simplest thing in the world. It is only firmware updatable through the app. I know that there's a USB plug on the side of it. That is just to power it up and down. So that's something else to keep in mind. So if you need to do the firmware update, and please keep your firmware updated, you're going to do that through the app. Now, if something happens we have a fail-safe built into it. So if something happens in the middle of the firmware update, all you have to do is get the remote close to the app, and it will go into a recovery mode and it'll fix it. So if something happens to the app, someone gives you a phone call in the middle of it or something like that, don't worry, it's recoverable. Just follow along the instructions and it'll go into recovery mode and you'll be able to save it. So we try to make sure that stuff can't be bricked out like that. So anything else?
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. So again, it's really, really simple live, nothing too crazy. I just wanted to give the Connect some love because it doesn't get enough, I think. A really powerful little remote. You have all the control. Let me just real fast on the screen. Let me see. I haven't dove super deep into the app with the control, desktop control, but I know that if you dive in, let's see. I'm just trying to see, make sure I'm not presets. No, nothing there. So it looks like, and then you have your master controls down here, so you can actually you can hit the test and stuff like that, and you can control everything together. But in the app on your phone and the iPad, you can actually get in there and you can change, again, your standby modes. You can change the frequency power of your remote and stuff like that too, if you're working at really close proximity. Really cool stuff. Anything else before I sign off? Sweet. Sweet. Thank you all for coming and hanging out with us, for chatting it up. Again, not a super heavy live, talking about the Connect. If you have any other questions about any of that stuff, please reach out to me, reach out to anybody on the team. We'd love to talk about it. If you have any suggestions for some lives that you'd like to see, we have some things on the docket, but we can always make room for new cool things. Let us know. In the meantime, I hope you have an awesome rest of your week. We'll see you next time on Geared Up. Peace out, everybody.